Welcome back to another podcast with Miriam Khan, Raise Your Vibes. This particular podcast is quite a serious topic, and I'm sure it's going to raise some controversial heads, perhaps upset, annoy. Perhaps quite a lot of people do discuss their particular points of view on this, which you're quite right to do so. It's about the Taliban. And you can hear in my voice, it's not a topic I feel comfortable discussing, in the sense that it's a topic that has upset a lot of people across the world, in particular myself, because my family roots, the language anyway, comes from Afghanistan. It's partly Persian, it's partly a mixture of various dialects, Dari, Farsi, Persian, and it's called Pashto. And Pashto is a language that is very rarely spoken. There is different dialects to it. My family hereditary, ethnic roots because I'm from England personally, but my ethnic roots, my family hereditary roots, are from the northwest frontier of Pakistan, Afghanistan. The language is spoken heavily in Afghanistan, and obviously over at some point in time, some of our ancestors have crossed over the border for various reasons to live not far from Afghanistan due to civil war and due to outbreaks and things like this going on. Now, we all know records of the Taliban. We have plenty of knowledge of who they are. What's more disturbing is the fact that for a long while there was peace, and now it seems that that is not the case. I'm always very, very careful when I read the news and I watch the news. I'm very selective in which particular channels I watch or I listen to. To be honest with you, I don't watch much television at all. It's something that I've switched off from because I am selective, again, like I said, about what I watch, what I hear, but also, thankfully, due to the fact that I can hear and listen to and respond in different languages, it gives me the tenacity and the advantage point of understanding what somebody's saying when it is dubbed over. Some news channels, they have the propaganda, they have the media, they have the bias, and sometimes when they're translating, it's not actually what that person said. So sometimes I am very, 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 very meticulous about what that person has said, and I will pull something apart because I understand the tone and the content of what that person is saying. And at times certain news outlets, as you'll know, in certain presidential elections and so on, are very biased. Okay, so I am very careful when it comes to this. Now, a couple of days ago, a colleague of mine passed on a very disturbing news clip, which I'm going to discuss in this particular podcast, and that is due to the fact that the Taliban are doing various things to certain people, but in particular to girls, and in particular to girls being used as like wives for the fighters, which I'm going to go on to in a little while. That to me is disturbing, but like I said, I'll come back to that in a little while. Okay, the first thing that is clear is that already just in the last couple of days, quite a lot of families are having to move across borders, having to move across cities. They are leaving their homes, they are leaving their families, they are leaving their belongings, and basically they have whatever they have on the back, and they've run. Okay, and they've done that because of the fact that they're not safe. They're trying to protect their children, they're trying to protect their generations, they're trying to protect their future. There's been quite a lot of journalists, Afghani journalists, going and reporting on these issues because it is a problem. It is a big, big, big problem. Okay, these particular people, this particular group of people, are going against the tide again. They're showing their dominance, or trying to show their dominance. They're trying to show their power as they are surging across Afghanistan, and they are trying to take control again. The impact of that, though, is on the people and the lives of the people around the Afghanis. I'm an author. One of the second books that I published was actually to do with this very topic. I have analysed Khalid Hosseini's The Kite Runner, and the Taliban is prominently, heavily mentioned in that particular book. If you haven't read it, go ahead and read it. Beautiful story. Very, very interesting story. But it does focus on this concept of power and conflict and control. And it's something that unfortunately we are seeing again happening in Afghanistan. You know, we thought we'd had a quiet, peaceful sort of situation occurring, you know, and we thought that lives could go back to normal, inverted brackets, normal, you know, whatever normal might mean to you. And unfortunately, what we're seeing now is, you know, things are collapsing again, okay? And certain individuals, certain groups are trying very hard to take over, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, political forces, armies, they're doing the best that they can. The soldiers within the Afghanistani groups are doing the best that they can to try to control and combat this situation. But it's very, very difficult when you're dealing with, you know, terrorists that have got quite a bit of a reputation, and they are fierce. You know, they are fierce, and there are various dynamics as to what has been going on, why they're doing that as well. Okay? What's more disturbing to me personally, okay, is that they're not attacking or targeting, you know, particular soldiers. What they're doing, this particular group of people, is they're attacking the young, the innocent, the vulnerable again. And in particular females. Okay? In particular females. There's quite a lot of news, and I don't want to share the images, understandably, but it's very, very, very upsetting to see a gentleman crying over the body of his daughter as she was on her way to school. Try and picture that in your head if you can. You know, losing a child is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. And no parent should have to bury their child. Nobody. And nobody should have to even think about the fact that they've sent their child to school and that's the last time that they get to see them. That's an awful, awful reality. And it's a reality that unfortunately people are facing. You know, they're facing. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see that these attacks are continuing. You know, and to see that these individuals are trying their best to take over, you know, and to rule again and to control again. But it's the fact that they're doing it to the most vulnerable people. Okay. The article that I had been passed over, or video should I say, is from a network called Gravitas. And Gravitas has reported through Wyon News, I'll put the link in my feed, about how the Taliban allegedly wants girls above 15 to be gifted to fighters as wives. I mean, that whole concept itself is absolutely abhorrent and disgusting, you know, because that is not representing any religion that that group allegedly claims to represent, you know, not at all. There is footage of, you know, young girls or women being beaten, being violently beaten for alleged crimes, you know, that haven't been necessarily done in a jurisdiction sort of way. Okay? And it's understandably left people, including myself, shocked. Okay? Shocked. I'm going to let you listen to an extract from that particular article.
The Taliban has not changed. They're taking control of more than 200 districts, rebuilding what they call an Islamic emirate. Tonight on Gravitas, we'll tell you how. I'll start with this letter. It has a Taliban seal. What does it say? Parents should, quote-unquote, gift their daughters as wives to Taliban fighters. They want to reward terrorists with wives, like women are some kind of an object to be gifted. Reports say this letter came from the Taliban's Cultural Commission. It asks imams in captured areas to prepare a list of the names of women in their communities, girls who are above 15 years of age and widows under 45 years. The letter says they will be married to members of the Taliban. They'll be transported to Pakistan's Waziristan, where they will be converted to Islam and reintegrated. I have no words for this. Even though it's hardly surprising, the Taliban have clearly not evolved. They promised to uphold women's rights during the peace negotiations, just like they promised to uphold peace. But look at what they're doing, launching attacks and trampling on women's rights. They want to impose an extreme interpretation of the Sharia law in Afghanistan. In fact, they're already doing it, implementing old rules in some of the districts. Women are not being allowed to step out alone. The Taliban says they must be accompanied by a male companion. They're being barred from receiving an education. Men have been asked to not shave their beards. They must wear a turban. People are being told to stop wearing red and green clothes, which are the colors of the Afghan flag. Leaders negotiating with the Taliban often talk about protecting the gains made in the last 2 decades.
As you can hear from that extract from Gravitas report, the Taliban are going backwards. They're doing the same regime, the same tactics, the same techniques, only this time their demands are slightly more sophisticated and stupid, to be honest. I'm sorry, but they are stupid. It's deplorable, it's disgusting, it's shocking to think that they can list demands and dictate what females should be doing within the society, within that culture. There are no words. A bit like this lady said, there are no words to even describe how you react as a female, as a Muslim, as someone from that particular tribe, to this abhorrent suggestion. Well, not even a suggestion. It's an instruction, it's an order. Who comes up with these things? Who decides these things? You know, it's concerning and it's worrying that they think it's acceptable to treat a female like that. We're not going back to the Stone Ages here. We're going back to almost like medieval times. You know, there is no growth, there is no concept of understanding, there's no respect, there's no equality, there's no love and compassion. None. It's hard enough for a female to be able to go to school and get educated in the first place in countries like that. Money's an issue. Family dynamics are an issue. Culture, tradition is an issue. Sometimes the mindset of your family is an issue. You know? Forget the money side. Forget all the concept of travelling and getting there. That's a side issue. I happen to be the second female only ever in my whole family to have gone to finished high school, gone to college, and then gone to university. My aunt was the first female ever to go to university and become a dentist. I'm the second. And what I did in my particular life is I made sure I went back several times. I went back to university 4 times. I enjoyed it so much, obviously. But I did that because I pushed myself to be, you know, further educated, further integrated. I know I'm smart, mashallah, as we say. I wanted to better myself. I wanted myself to have the opportunities that I knew I wasn't always going to be able to get. I went to university the 3rd and 4th time in my late 30s because you can go to university anytime you want. That's a concept that people forget. These individuals, these girls, they'll never get that chance. Never. If the Taliban take control, if the Taliban are permitted to continue with these acts of treason, these acts of, barbaric times, barbaric thinking, we're in for a shock. We're in for a big shock. And it's the most vulnerable people in our society that worries me. You know? We have to protect our community. We have to protect the most vulnerable. Okay? We have to protect our rights. We have to protect our honor. And we have to protect our Watan. Watan is your group, your family, your culture. Some individuals, as I've seen, they've moved across the borders, understandably so, very, very quickly. They've left everything behind. They know what's coming next. But it's got to be stopped. It's got to be stopped. Here's an extract again from the voice recording.
They say that Afghanistan has come a long way since the fall of the Taliban in 2001. But in the past few weeks, Afghanistan has been pushed back again. The gains are slipping away as the guns ring louder. It is amply clear that the Taliban want power by force. They want to bring back the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. This was the name that the Taliban used for this country when they controlled Kabul from 1996 to 2001, the Islamic Emirate.
It's quite clear that what the Taliban are doing is obviously instigating and installing fear, and it's working. Very, very quickly, they've already, identified the most vulnerable within the society. They've made sure that the females of Afghanistan, not all, but they've ensured that some females are now petrified to roam the streets, to even go somewhere outside, because they've got radical rules in place now due to the Taliban. What are we going to do about this? How can we get through this? How can we support? How can we help? These are things that I'm sure we're going to be, looking at in another podcast, because right now I don't think we have the answers. We really don't have the answers. People are escaping. People are making sure that they are removing themselves out of harm's way by going to different places. They know themselves that these individuals are fanatics. They are not representing a particular faith. They're not representing any aspect of a religious faith. It's absolutely, completely opposite of it. Okay? A lot of the priests, a lot of the imams, a lot of the sheikhs will not tolerate this either. Okay? But unfortunately, those people are also being caught and punished and put in very, very difficult, situations too. Very, very difficult situations. But the point is, how can we move forward from this? How can we stop this? These are extreme people, extremists. And they are terrorists. And they are unfortunately giving the rest of the world, the rest of the society that represents certain religious faiths a very, very bad name. They're not representing the majority of people that are Muslim, that live in peace, that respect peace and order and follow the religious books as it is. These people that are extremists are doing the complete opposite. The complete opposite. Okay? It's got to the point where they've ordered shops not to sell goods to women who come unaccompanied to the shop. I mean, how barbaric is that? We're in 2021. We're in 2021. We're not living in a prison in our own house. But unfortunately, that's what they're instigating. That's what they're doing. There's been video footage of a woman being flogged for an alleged crime, which I'm not going to discuss right now. On what basis did that occur? On what fair basis did that occur? None. That's the answer. None. Okay? Women are unfortunately going to be the people that are most at risk, and children. And that's what concerns me, being a female myself. It concerns me that this is happening right now again, despite the fact that we had had some form of peace for a little while. It is not helping that society. It's not helping that culture. And people are concerned. People are scared, and the education of girls is the thing that's going to be at extreme risk. It's hard enough as it is getting an education as a female, as I've said, with the various things that are going on, and people have tried to empower, people have tried to help. It's ironic sometimes when, for example, a certain person might go to a hospital and demand a female doctor for their wife or their daughter. Well, where is the female doctor? Because you've made sure that they haven't had that education to get there in the first place. Yet you're demanding one. You know, we need to have a think about this. We need to have a look at this. We need to provide our support for the female voices and the female audience, you know, and the population within Afghanistan. That's what concerns me the most. The education is crucial. Their safety is crucial. You know, and the fact that the Taliban are doing these particular acts shows you that they've thought about this for some time. They've strategized it for some time. You know, and now they're putting it into action. But at what cost? You know, at what cost? We need to think about how we as a society can help. Do we get in touch with the United Nations? Do we get in touch with, you know, people near to us, our prime ministers? Do we get in touch with people wherever it is that you live? You know, we'll have different sort of aspects and different views on this. What can we do within our own community to make sure that these young people, young females that we're discussing, are not targeted again, are not made to be vulnerable acts again, and they're not sacrificial lambs? Because unfortunately they are. You know, there are quite a lot of elders within the community that will try hardest to protect those innocent women and children, but it's not always possible to do so. Okay, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of outcry, there's a lot of weapons being used, and sometimes we are outforced by that. Okay, you know, what can we do? What can we do to overcome this? Okay, like I said, we're not going to have all the answers right now. We're not. Some politicians need to look at this, other countries need to perhaps support this and look at this as a bigger issue. Okay, because we need to protect those individuals, we need to protect those girls and women mainly from being used and demoralized, being abused, traumatized. The list is going to be endless. The list is going to be extremely endless. We can't stay silent. We can't. I'm sure I will end up doing a follow-up to this particular podcast. Right now, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I'm stunned, to be honest, that this has happened again. And it's concerning and it's heartbreaking to witness and to see and to read about. I guess the only thing I can do is pray. That's the only thing I can do. And do the podcast, which I probably will do in another language, which is Pashto as well at some point. But please, please, keep your eyes open. Keep Afghanistan and the women and the children and the men, obviously, in your prayers, in your blessings, in whatever it is that you believe in. Talk to people around you. What can we do to support these young ethnic minorities to make sure that they thrive, that they're given the chance that every other child, every other woman is given? Hopefully we come and find some solutions, and I'm sure I'll be mentioning this topic again. Thank you for tuning in. I know it's not a nice topic to hear about, but thank you for tuning in. And if you have some suggestions, and of the polite ones, please feel free to comment. Thanks for tuning in. This is Miriam Khan at Raise Your Vibes.